Dan, you want to know what your mom and dad are fighting about right now?
What are we fighting about?
Why did you buy those new bowls?
Because it was driving me nuts.
Look at that. We don't need new bowls.
Yeah, we do. There's a big chip in it.
I want to know what everyone else thinks. Would you guys go buy a new bowl with that
Yes,
tiny?
You absolutely would.
No.
My name is Alan Lim. I am a founder here at Skratch Labs. I'm also a sports scientist. Spent most of my career working with professional endurance athletes, primarily cyclists on the pro cycling tour. You know, I haven't worked with a lot of triathletes or runners in my time. I find that they're a little strange. They're a little odd creatures. Their OCD levels kind of like another notch up. For me, I'm kind of laid back, you know. All of my parts are from China, but I was actually born in the Philippines, and I think culturally I'm more laid back like that. So cycling has been the world that I come from. That being said, it's been a real pleasure getting to know both Gwen and Pat and working with them because they just get it. And they have that nice balance of, you know, really professional, totally aware of what they need for their daily performance environment, but at the same time, relaxed and steady and normal human beings. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's just helping these extraordinary people, maybe with more of the ordinary things in life that make a difference in performance.
The reason I started using Skratch was I just loved the taste of it. I really enjoyed the taste of it. I also really like their chews. I think they're some of the best chews. I think they are the best chews I've ever had. They've ruined all other chews for me. So that's something I have before all workouts and also before on the start line. The hydration mix that I use is the lemon lime one. I just really like that flavor. It's been really awesome to have things that I enjoy, and then on top of that to have a team of people that are willing to help me achieve.
You know, I've known about Gwen for a while. Obviously, you know, she has been tearing it up in triathlon, or was a legend in triathlon, and so we have a lot of mutual friends in the endurance world. You know, I'm friends with the Holowesco family. They do the Island House Triathlon. I'm friends with Tim Johnson, who helped Gwen with her descending ahead of the 2016 Olympics. So I've always heard of Gwen, always, you know, kind of knew who she was. But we ultimately got in touch through one of Pat's friends who runs a little clothing company called Donkey Label. And she was interested in exploring her nutrition options as she began running and trying to understand how to optimize that. And so we got in touch through a mutual friend. And yeah, it's been working out pretty well so far.
So I started working with Skratch when Pat, like before Chicago.
In July.
So I started working with Gwen summer of 2018. And what was really cool was when Pat and Gwen asked me to come out, they wanted me to get immersed in their day-to-day routine. So I ended up staying with them, ended up being there for about 2 days, and I got to see what that daily life is like for them, you know, what the training routine is like, what the work is like, not being familiar with running, you know, being familiar with cycling. It's a very, very different thing being able to grab a bottle off a bicycle anytime versus running a marathon and going so deep and so hard and only getting to feed every 5K. Totally different environment. So it's been really eye-opening for me. It's been a huge education. But at the same time, I think that I come in with a bit of uncarved block mentality, meaning I don't know the sport, so I don't know what rules I'm breaking. So in that sense, I have a lot of similarities with Gwen. And that's been fun. It's been fun to sit down and say, hey, what's the problem set? What are the issues that you need to solve to be able to be your best in the marathon and to attack things as a problem?
Everything has been super custom, and I love working with partners who are willing to innovate and help me achieve at my highest level. So Alan flew out here a couple times and helped create exactly what I needed. So we measured my sweat loss, my salt ratio. We measured how many calories per hour I need, how much I can pre-fuel myself so that I can be fully fueled going into races and big training days. And we have been working on a product that I can use on race day, and it's been great. I've got to try many different flavors, and it's just been a really cool experience.
Yeah, you know, when I first started to talk to Gwen about what she needed a fuel source that she could actually consume while running. So what this meant was that we couldn't rely necessarily on food because she's running so hard, she's breathing so hard that the most she could do was skip a breath and squeeze something into her mouth, right? So this meant some sort of high carbohydrate solution. Not only is fueling really important, but hydration is really important. You know, she's someone who on a hot day can lose 2.5 up to 3 liters per hour. So we first started out by doing simple things like measuring how much sodium she was losing in her sweat, doing simple tests, weighing her before and after, seeing how much weight she lost when drinking by thirst, trying to modify things so that thirst was a good marker for her in terms of hydration. Generally speaking, when you get the electrolyte content of your sports drink right, thirst becomes a really great barometer. Then it was looking at how much food she could actually intake ahead of the marathon, how much fuel she could actually have stored on board in terms of glycogen, and how much play we had there. From there, it was trying to make up the difference with higher carbohydrate solution. And for me, the first time that I saw Gwen go out and do a really hard run, she did a 20-mile workout at, it was 2:30 pace. It was really, really insightful because what I didn't realize was when you're going that hard, how hard it is to do anything else but go that hard. Like how hard it is to actually pick up a bottle, take a breath, and squeeze that volume in. So for me, it was like, well, yeah, if you need to consume 1 liter an hour, just consume 1 liter an hour. But mechanically being able to do that when you're running that hard is really, really challenging and really, really difficult. And I didn't appreciate how deep these athletes go and how difficult it is to do those simple things in the middle of a marathon. And that kind of changed my approach and my thinking about how to do things. What I think I realized was that so much of nutrition for the marathon happens before the marathon. It happens in the food that you're eating the week before. It happens in that glycogen loading phase. It happens in the pre-hydration phase. Your hydration right before, your fueling right before the start, that's also critical. And what you're trying to do in the rest of the race is hope that you have enough on board to survive it and supplement enough so that you ensure that, one, you're never going to run out of fuel, and two, you're not going to have any GI distress, right? We're still working on it. We've got some really interesting formulas. We probably did about 200 different formulas for Gwen just leading up to the Chicago Marathon over the summer. And I'm sure that we're going to continue to refine over the next year or so.
That was really, really good learning experience for me and for Patrick. And, we were able to know, I was failing at some of my longer runs up in Mammoth. And a lot of that was I wasn't fueling enough the night before. So, we learned kind of how to fuel the night before, what I need right before runs, what I need during runs. And it's just been a really great learning experience for me to be confident going into race day, knowing that my body is firing at the highest level. So Pat, we had Alan come to our house a couple different times, and was there anything that you learned either about my fueling, or he also cooked a few meals for us, so is there anything you kind of could take in that you then incorporated into how we eat?
Well, I always like being in the house with someone else who can cook and really likes to thrive in the kitchen. So I think Alan and I had quite a good system where he could just shout out ideas and then I could run with him and then make it happen. So that was a lot of fun.
I'll get it.
Oh,
I'll get it.
I think the biggest thing with Gwen that we do from triathlon was just you always have to be really aggressive in how she's eating throughout the day and around key sessions. The biggest thing that we want to shield Gwen from is becoming calorie depleted after a session and then not replacing it. Because we know that the work that she needs to get in the following day or later that day is crucial. So biggest thing is just always keeping energy levels topped up, fueling for performance, understanding what each session, how each session takes in the body. So if it's an easy run, what does that do? Can we go a little bit more carb light on something like that versus if she's got a big run coming up in 2 days.
Sweetie, I got it.
That's something we got to really carb up for even 48 hours in advance and really load up her muscles with as much glycogen as possible. Because the difference from triathlon to marathon is that in triathlon, she was able to pull glycogen from her entire body over the course of the 2 hours. In marathon, it's really all just coming from the waist down. So if her quads and her glutes and her hammies aren't fully loaded up, she'll be out of energy by the time the race is done.
In the marathon, we have aid stations every 5K. So I'll be taking on a bottle every 5K. And what I think we also learned was you can pre-fuel before the start line as well. So those are some of the things that we've been working on.
And we learned that the other big thing that
Based
we
on
learned is
thirst.
that we drink to thirst. Your body's a good regulator of how thirsty it actually is, and those sensations you get in your mouth are very real of what's going on in your body and your demands from that. The biggest thing that we were doing in training up to Chicago was just simulating those feeds. So no matter where Gwen was or what kind of session she was doing, she was still drinking every 5K. So the big thing is like, are you practicing drinking a bottle at race pace? Are you practicing grabbing bottles at race pace? Those were the kinds of things that we're working on and we'll continue to work on.
You know, on the nutrition and the sports science side, I think that we've made an incredible amount of progress in a very short time. And you know, that's all due to the kind of feedback that Gwen can give us. She is so in tune and so sensitive about her own needs and what her body requires that it's super easy to fast track a prototype, send it out to her, have her test it, and have her give us feedback, right? So I'd say that, you know, we're probably about 70% of the way there. There's still a lot that I know that we want to explore and try. You know, there are different situations, different types of environments that you have to be prepared for. And so what we might end up finding is that the protocol and the needs are really dependent upon the environment, upon where she is in terms of her fitness level. You know, we're getting there. It's pretty exciting.
I actually didn't want to have a lot of say in what was going into the product. Alan is so knowledgeable about what types of sugars and carbs are digestible, which ones are good for when you're working out, which ones last long and are like a slow release. So he worked on all the, I'd say like nitty gritty stuff, and I got to do the fun stuff. So like we got to sample a bunch of flavors and, you know, he explained everything, and I know what are in some of the products that are going to be coming out, which is really exciting. But my favorite part was just he came here once and we had like 13 different flavors and we all just did a blind taste test, and that's kind of the role I had in it.
Partnership between Skratch Labs and Gwen is so positive. First and foremost because we believe in her and we love her story and we love who she is. You know, she has taken a big risk to go from being at the very, very top of a sport to now being an underdog. And that underdog story is irresistible for us because we've always felt as a small company here in Boulder that we're underdogs as well. You know, it's funny, Skratch Labs was built on this belief that food and drink is just better from scratch, but it was also built on this belief that no matter where you find yourself in life, you can always start from scratch. And Gwen is absolutely starting from scratch in the marathon. You know, our end goal with Gwen is to help her to win, help her to succeed, help her to be her best. You know, what's really cool is that I've got a team here at Skratch that supports me, and so that allows me to go out and be part of Gwen's team and support her. It's not just on the hydration and nutrition side, it's on thinking about the whole sports science checklist, right? So, you know, what's the checklist look like when you travel? How do you make sure that, you know, you don't get sick before a race? That was a big lesson learned at Chicago. what are the things that we need to do for thermal regulation or heat adaptation, depending upon the temperature, say in Tokyo or at the Olympic trials. What's really, really cool is that I get to think about the issues that she's dealing with as a scientist and give her advice towards that. So for me, the goal is to ultimately help Gwen win and help her do that, with as much fun, as much joy as possible. To be part of that, to help her with that, we know what that's like from both a business and a sport perspective, and it inspires us. If we can help her and we can help be part of that inspiration, it's a beautiful thing.
For more information on the Skratch, you can use the link in the description. I hope you guys enjoy.